The morning light did little to soften the weight pressing on my chest. Jamie moved through the kitchen with rehearsed ease, pouring coffee, humming under their breath, acting as if last night had never happened. As if Max hadn't stared them down like a stranger. As if I hadn't watched them step out of someone else's car under cover of darkness. I sat at the table, fingers curled tightly around my mug, barely tasting the coffee. My mind spun, but my face stayed still. Jamie was watching me closely. Their eyes flickered to Max, who now wouldn't leave my side, resting his head on my knee, gaze fixed on Jamie's every move. "You're quiet today," Jamie said, feigning concern. "Everything okay?" I nodded slowly, forcing a small smile. "Just tired. Didn't sleep well." That was true, but not the way Jamie thought. Max's behavior wasn't a coincidence. It was a clue, a red flag I could no longer ignore. Dogs sense things: fear, lies, danger, and Max had sensed all three. He had tried to tell me in the only way he knew how. I needed proof. I needed truth, not half-lies whispered in the dark. That evening, when Jamie left again, claiming to meet a friend from work, I didn't protest. I kissed them goodbye, smiled even, and waited exactly 5 minutes before I followed. Max sat in the passenger seat, alert but calm, as I trailed Jamie's car through side streets I didn't recognize. We parked 2 blocks away from a quiet, upscale neighborhood. Jamie walked up to a house I'd never seen before, knocked once, then slipped inside without hesitation. I waited 10 minutes. Then 20. Every second sharpened the edges of my anger. Finally, I approached. I needed to see. I needed it to hurt, because hurt meant I could let go. The windows were drawn, but the crack of light beneath the curtain showed movement. Shadows passed Jamie's silhouette, then another. Laughter, muffled but unmistakable. A hand on Jamie's back, fingers tracing familiar paths. I turned away, heart pounding, breath tight. Max stood by my side, unmoving as though standing guard, and in that moment, clarity settled over me. There was no salvaging what was broken. No pretending I didn't know. Jamie's betrayal wasn't just a fracture, it was a fault line, splitting open everything I believed in. Max had sensed it long before I did, and now I had seen it for myself. But I wouldn't confront Jamie, not yet. First, I'd gather every lie. Every secret, and then I'd decide what to do with the truth. I didn't sleep that night, not out of grief, but out of resolve. By morning, I had a plan. Jamie had built their world on lies, carefully constructed, hidden behind smiles and excuses. But they'd underestimated me, and they'd certainly underestimated Max. While Jamie was gone the next day, I searched. Phone records, emails, bank statements. Each one painted the same story: secret dinners, unexplained charges, hotel reservations under false names. Max watched me, silent and still, as if he knew the significance of every page I turned. That evening, Jamie returned. Greeted me with a kiss I didn't return. They rambled about work, about a potential promotion. Their voice was light, casual, but I could see it now. The way their eyes avoided mine, the flicker of guilt just beneath the surface. Over dinner, I placed the folder on the table. Neatly labeled. Every detail cataloged. Jamie froze mid-bite. "What's this?" they asked, but the tremble in their voice betrayed them. I didn't answer. I simply opened the folder and spread the contents before them: photographs, screenshots, receipts. Max sat beside me, unmoving, his eyes locked on Jamie. Silence. Jamie's face paled, eyes darting from page to page, searching for some lie to save them, some excuse that could still work. "I can explain," they began. I raised a hand, cutting them off. "Don't. You've already said enough." The truth lay between us, undeniable and sharp. Jamie reached for me, desperation bleeding through their calm facade, but I stepped back. "I trusted you," I said, my voice low, steady. "I believed in us. And you shattered that for what?" "For lies that Max saw before I did." Jamie's gaze flicked to Max. Shame etched deep. I walked away, every step deliberate, Max at my side like a shadow. Behind me, Jamie's voice cracked, pleading, but I didn't turn back. There was freedom in knowing the truth, freedom in walking away from betrayal. That night, I locked the door behind Jamie and stood in the quiet with Max, his head resting against my leg. His eyes soft. He had warned me, protected me, even from myself. And now, with everything exposed, we could finally breathe. Sometimes the ones who love us the most don't speak in words. They show us, and when they do, we just have to be brave enough to listen. I never thought marriage could feel so lonely, especially when you're still sharing the same bed. Darren and I had been together for 6 years. On the surface, we looked solid. Nice house, shared vacations, dinner with friends. But behind closed doors, we were more like polite roommates than partners. The silence between us had grown thick, almost oppressive, and every time I tried to talk about it, he'd brush me off with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then one night, out of nowhere, he said, "Maybe we need to shake things up a bit." I laughed, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. He started talking about experiences, how some couples invited others into their relationship to reignite the spark. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I didn't know whether to be angry or heartbroken. Was I not enough for him anymore? Or had I ever been? For days I tried to ignore it, hoping he'd forget. But Darren was persistent, almost eerily calm about it. "It's not cheating if we agree on it," he said. "Think of it as an adventure." I didn't respond. Not with words anyway. But something in me shifted. Doubt. Insecurity. A part of me wondered if this was a test or a trap. Then came the dinner party. It was at his colleague's house, a sleek, modern place in the city. That's where I met Marcus and Darnell. Both were charming in completely different ways. Marcus was smooth, well-spoken, with a calm confidence that put me at ease. Darnell had a boldness about him, the kind that made you feel like you were the only person in the room when he looked at you. Darren noticed my reactions. Of course he did. Later that night, on the drive home, he casually asked, "What did you think of them?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Over the next week, Darren brought them up more often. Jokingly at first, then with a strange kind of seriousness. "They like you," he said one night, as if offering me a gift I hadn't asked for. I could set something up. Just think about it. I started to wonder, was he trying to make me happy, or was he just trying to feel something? Anything. Our marriage wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing under the weight of unspoken resentment and forced smiles. And now this suggestion, this invitation, felt like the final nail. I wish I could say I walked away. That I put my foot down and demanded something real from him, but instead, I said nothing, and silence, I've learned, is its own kind of permission. I thought if I stayed silent long enough, Darren would drop the idea. Instead, he took my silence as consent. 2 days after that dinner party, he handed me my phone with a text message already typed out. It was to Marcus. "Hey, we should all get together sometime soon." All I had to do was press send. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He shrugged, leaning against the kitchen counter like we were discussing weekend plans. "Because you deserve something exciting. Something different. Maybe this will bring us closer." Closer. That word echoed in my head like a cruel joke. I didn't feel closer to him. I felt cornered. Still, I pressed send. Over the next few days, Marcus and Darnell became frequent topics in our home. Darren spoke about them as if they were old friends. He even invited them over for drinks, playing the perfect host while I sat on the edge of every moment, uncertain whether I was a guest in my own life. With them, I felt alive. Seen. Their attention was flattering, intoxicating even, but it confused me more than anything. I didn't know if I was chasing desire, validation, or just trying to feel something after so long feeling nothing. Darnell, especially, had a way of looking at me that made it hard to breathe. Not lustful, intense. Like he could see straight through the layers I'd been hiding behind. Darren noticed that 2.1 evening, after they left, he sat beside me on the couch and took my hand. His eyes were distant, unreadable. "I trust you," he said. "Whatever happens, just don't shut me out." What did that mean? Was he giving me permission? Was he asking for loyalty while encouraging betrayal? My mind raced, trying to make sense of the rules he was rewriting without my consent. I started to feel like a pawn in some twisted game I hadn't agreed to play, but the worst part? A part of me wanted to go along with it, not for him, but for me. I was tired of feeling invisible. Tired of pretending everything was fine. When Marcus invited me for coffee, alone, I accepted. Darren didn't ask where I was going, and I didn't offer. Sitting across from Marcus in that quiet cafe, I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. It felt like stepping into sunlight after living in shadows. But with every laugh, every glance, guilt gnawed at me. I was slipping, and I knew it. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at a woman I barely recognized. I hadn't crossed the line yet, but I was dangerously close, and Darren, he was still watching, waiting. As if he already knew which side I'd choose.